Howdy doody, everybody. This is David from Flash by V Cycle Nut, getting ready to test the next exhaust on my Honda CB750 Hornet. As you can see, the aero exhaust is off, and I got the Akrapovic exhaust open and laid out. Configuration is just slightly different than the aero, with the header tubes being a little bit longer, and otherwise pretty similar. So when I first opened up the Akrapovic exhaust and the canister, and I looked, and it has a non-removable DB killer. It's like, did I order the wrong one? But nope, this is the only one available on their website. It does have a DB killer, and it's really kind of cool looking inside. I'll show you. I'll attach a picture after the video. But it's not removable without taking the whole canister apart, so not removing it. This should be a really easy system to install, just like the Arrow. And we'll get it installed, get some sound dB readings, some dyno runs, all that good stuff, and see if that DB killer that's in there, see if it affects the power much. So one thing to definitely pay attention to when installing this exhaust is that hole right there is for the spring, and that's going to attach a spring to here. There's only one hole on that flange, so make sure you align it with where the spring tab is going to be. So the exhaust is fully on, matches the lines real well, as you would expect. It bolts up a lot like the stock exhaust. A little different, the brackets is on the back side of the bracket. Usually they're on front, but that was per the instructions. And because the slip-on is designed to work also with the stock header, it has a band clamp plus the spring on the bottom. Kind of this, I don't like band clamps on my exhaust, but is what it is. Sounds really nice and mellow and deep, as you would expect. Really very mellow sounding with that DB killer in it. A little bit too quiet for my taste, to be honest, but we'll get all the testing done, mapped out, and get you all the info for it. So as you can see, system is light, like I said, 8.5 pounds and 57 decibels at idle, 111 on the run, as I'm measuring it from way back from the exhaust tip. So that, like I said in another video, these are not absolute measurements. These are just every exhaust that I test, I'll give you the dB readings from the same distance with my dB reader, so you can at least compare them. How they are, but these readings are close to stock exhaust level, sound level reading. So very quiet system. Like I said, a little bit too quiet for my taste, to be honest. But if you're somebody that really wants the aftermarket exhaust, really hear the deeper tone without it getting loud, and you see it makes decent power. A little disappointed so far. I've tested this and the Arrow full systems, and they're both, the way they're configured, they're almost like a stock decap pipe. Not really what I would consider like a full-blown full system. Now, I don't know if that just means Honda did a good job with designing the stock exhaust, because the only other full exhaust that I see out there is a Dominator, and it looks the same way. Kind of the same configuration as the stock exhaust, sells it both as a header or just a slip-on, and the slip-on goes on the aftermarket exhaust or header. This is not what normally happens with aftermarket exhaust. Usually, they're designed and they have the freedom of mounting it a little different with the collector in different locations, maybe different size tubing. I'm saying I don't know what to make of this. The CB750's been out a bit, and so I'm surprised there's not more full exhaust choices with it. And we definitely did see a pickup, especially in the mid-range with the full exhaust over just the slip-on, but nothing huge. So again, I'm not sure if that just means Honda did a really good job designing the stock system, or if these aftermarket companies don't feel there's going to be enough market on this bike. But I'd be surprised on that, because this is a really, really nice bike. Really makes good power. Of the three Japanese CP2s, it's my favorite. It kind of splits the difference. It doesn't have as much torque as the GSX-8 does, but it makes a little bit more power. It's not quite as nimble and playful as the MT-07. It kind of splits the difference in that between the MT-07 and the GSX-8. It's more playful and small feeling than GSX-8, but not as much as the MT-07, which is its strength. And I think it's a really solid platform that I'm sure will grow in popularity as more people learn about it. So let's get to how this Akrapovic full exhaust performed. This is how my 2025 Honda CB750 would have performed look like on my dyno all stock. And this next run is my Hornet all stock, with the only change being my mapping in it. And as I always say, I can't quantify the part throttle gains, how much smoother it is. I've sent out a fair amount of surveys on the flashes that I've done yet, and everybody's commented how much they like the throttle and my different throttle maps and the engine braking maps. The engine braking has worked out like I thought, where people would find the engine braking setting that they like the most and leave it there, and then changing through the different maps, the throttle power modes, for finding the aggressiveness for the situation that they like. So really happy and proud that it's working out the way that I had planned on it. But as you can see, even with just the stock bike, for just mapping changes, this is a pretty amazing gains here. These runs compare what I was able to achieve with the stock bike and my mapping for the stock bike versus when I added the arrow slip-on versus with the mapping specific for that. And you can see we have even more gains across the board. And the next progression that we would test is comparing the Hornet with a free-flowing slip-on and my mapping specific for it, for now where we're at with this Akrapovic full exhaust and my mapping specific for it. Peak number almost the same. Really, the gains are from 5,500 to a little bit above 9 grand. Slight losses here between 3 and 4 grand. I mean, nothing really to write home about. A couple horsepower through there. You do get the lighter weight, but it seems like an expensive price of admission for the gains that we got over just a slip-on. So let's compare where we were with the stock bike to where it is now. And I think this really perfectly illustrates why I do what I do, where I show you that progression. Because if I had just gone right from the stock bike and then showed you what it looks like now with the Akrapovic full exhaust on my mapping, you'd be like, hell yeah, sign me up. Like, what an impressive set of gains. But as you see, I got almost all of this with just the slip-on, and so a much smaller investment. And even the stock bike with my mapping is not that far off of this. So while it does definitely take away some weight, and it doesn't run poorly with it, obviously it runs good with it, and you do get some gains, I just don't know if they're worth the price of admission. And again, I come back to this, like all these full systems, they're more like just a decatted stock header, and especially this can with a DB killer in it that you can't remove, really is choking the power. So then I got the idea of like, oh, let me take the arrow straight through slip-on and put it on the Akrapovic header and see what I get. All right, these next couple of dyno run comparisons can get a little hard to follow. So everything's labeled, and I'll try to go through it and explain where we is. So the Akrapovic full exhaust with my mapping all done. You can see there's a red line, and the air fuel line looks really good. So then what I did is I just, like I said, put the arrow slip-on the Akrapovic header, and before I made any changes, I should have moved this up a little bit, but it totally destroyed my air-fuel ratio. You can see it went really, really lean here and really lean there, and really didn't make any gains, even here on the top where the air-fuel just got a little lean. So then I was like, well, obviously I got to spend the time and correct this and see where we end up. So then I fixed the air-fuel ratio. Let's see what that looked like. So this is the little bit of gains that I got when I fixed that air-fuel ratio, which you would have thought like the gains would be substantially pretty huge, right? But they really aren't. So let's compare now where with doing the arrow open slip-on with it, where it is with the regular slip-on that comes with the Akrapovic system. And here we are. I mean, not as much between them as you would think, right? It's interesting that with the more restricted canister, it actually made a little bit power more. I mean, nothing crazy, nothing to write home about. But between 7 and 9 grand, it worked a little better, but it definitely worked less well here in the lower RPMs and didn't hold on to the power as much. But you're talking, what's that, a half a horsepower difference between them if you're just going to look at the peak number. So not as much in there as I thought. Just again, as I keep saying, just not super impressed with these full exhaust systems and how they're working on the Hornet. Again, not really sure why, but no matter what setup you have, I do have to do now one more setup that I didn't anticipate. I'm going to put the stock header back on and map it out with this Akrapovic slip-on, so that I can have mapping specific for that. So then I'll have it for the Akrapovic, or if you have a type of slip-on that's just open straight through, like the Arrow, or if you just put a normal DV killer in it instead of this crazy looking DV killer that's in this Akrapovic canister. So yeah, just keep development. If anybody has a full exhaust, then I'm just missing it. And they see that it's out there, please let me know. I don't see anything other than the Dominator, which is going to be just like the Arrow exhaust on this, but I'll order the Dominator and get it here just to make sure that what I think is actually true, especially since, as we saw when I threw this Akrapovic canister, or removed the Akrapovic canister and put the Arrow header canister on this full exhaust, it really changed the air fuel a lot. So we want to make sure, or I want to make sure, that I have all of your mapping needs figured out for you. So thanks guys for watching. Remember that subscribe and like button for more motorcycle related content. Got a few bikes that I'm working on development wise. We're into November, where it's our wet weather up here in the Pacific Northwest, but I'll keep clipping away at them because of my street mapping that I do. I am at the mercy of the weather a little bit more than other tuners. But if you've ridden one of my bikes that are a bike that is tuned by me, you will know it's worth it. So thanks guys. Take care. Dirty side down for you, those of you that are lucky enough this time of the year to be in the warm weather. Appreciate it while you got it, because your summers suck. At least that's my opinion after living in Florida for 30 years. So take care, everybody. Peace out.